right, good morning everybody. It is Tuesday and we are on day 12 of our 21-day reading plan, and I am happy to be here with you this morning to look at Matthew chapter 6, and we will be in verses 16 through 18 today. So if you'd like to follow along, I'm going to read those verses right now out of my Bible, and we'll get into it. All right, here we go. So, how to fast. Jesus says, whenever you fast, don't be sad-faced like the hypocrites, for they make their faces unattractive, so their fasting is obvious to people. I assure you, they have gotten their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that you don't show your fasting to people, but to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So there's a lot to unpack here, and the first of which is to just talk about the word hypocrite. You know, it says don't, whenever you fast, don't be sad-faced like the hypocrites. And Jesus kind of lays out what we shouldn't do first when it comes to fasting, what's kind of the not to-do list, and then he gives us the to-do list of how we should fast. And the first thing is don't be like hypocrites. Well, what does it mean to be hypocritical in your fasting? And I think if you think about what fasting is, it's really a time where you're letting God know that you're hungry for Him, just for Him, and for nothing else. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the idea of doing religious things, for the credit that it brings us, and the praise that we get from other people when they see us doing, religious or church things. Jesus was saying a hypocrite, if they're fasting, really what they're looking for is the approval of other men. I'm kind of stealing this from John Piper, says that hypocrisy is aiming at the praise of man, and it succeeds. But that's all. So when people are walking around looking disheveled and hungry and thin because they've been fasting, and they want people to see that, that's the desire of their heart. They want to be seen doing those things. And being seen fasting is an external event, like if we just happen to be caught fasting, then that's okay. But these people are living to be seen fasting. They're in this self-exalting motive for fasting. And that's all they want. They want people to see them struggling and traveling that difficult road of fasting. So they get that reward. They get that recognition. So Jesus is saying, look, they've got their reward. That's the reason they're doing it. So that's all they're going to get. Kind of like we talked about with prayer before, praying in public versus praying in private. So when we have that heart hunger for God, we just want to be in His presence. We're not seeking the recognition of men. We're not seeking their approval. So there's a difference there. So Jesus lays out what not to do, but then He lays out what to do. And He's basically saying, if you are going to fast, then just look normal, as normal as possible in doing it, because this is something you should be doing in secret, something you should be doing with your Father in heaven, and that we are. We've got this radical idea of God-oriented fasting, because He's testing our hearts here. He's testing to see if God Himself will be our sufficiency. Are we going to Him solely to be with Him, be in His presence? And when we orient ourselves in that way, then God's saying, you'll have your reward. You'll have your reward for spending time with me. And if our prayers during our fasting, because those two go hand in hand, follow those key parts of the Lord's Prayer. We see in that first part that Jesus says we need to be hallowing His name. We need to make holy or make much of his name. We need to seek his kingdom, and we need to do his will. So if our prayers line up with those three initiatives that Jesus talked about in his prayer, then God's going to honor us with the reward of answering those prayers. So when we orient our faith solely towards spending time with the Father in secret and praying over those things that honor and build his kingdom, then we'll have a reward that isn't like anything that we'll experience on this earth. It's way better than the approval of men. So take that to heart today. And I encourage you, take time to fast. It doesn't say if you fast, by the way. If you look at the first words of verse 16, it says whenever you fast. Whenever you fast. So Jesus was anticipating that we are going to fast. It's not a question of when. I mean, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Love you guys. We'll see you later.